Today we're going to talk about those sperm, which is a sex cell necessary for human reproduction. Without it, we could not conceive a child. It is a cell with 23 chromosomes that's highly adapted for reaching and penetrating the egg. When we think about how easy conception is, it is amazing that not more pregnancies occur because these sperm are very determined little critters. They are microscopic, about 1/5000th of an inch. It has a head that contains chromosomes and an acrosome with enzymes to help with penetration, which is 1/50th of a thousandth inch. It has a body that contains mitochondria for energy that helps with movement. It has a tail that propels it, and the life expectancy of a sperm is 48 to 72 hours. So as long as it has some kind of nourishment and moisture, it will stay viable. And they hate acidity, so they are very alkaline to help protect against the acid. I had to throw in this cartoon, the first picture of Michael Phelps. Look what a fast swimmer he is. He is going to beat all the rest of those little sperm right behind him. And the first sperm that penetrates the egg is the only egg that will enter. Once that happens, a casing goes around the egg and allows no more sperm in. If that happened, we would all be genetic nightmares because only one sperm can enter an egg cell. There's a greatly magnified sperm cell, in fact, so big I cut off part of the tail. It wraps around, as you can see. It has a nucleus that contains chromosomes. The mid-piece is where the mitochondria is that provides the energy for swimming. If you've seen Look Who's Talking or other movies that show sperm swimming in the vagina and up through the cervix and uterus and fallopian tubes, you will see how they swim and will reach that egg. Spermatogenesis is the creation of sperm. You men will produce 1,000 sperm per second. So just think how many sperm you're producing throughout even an hour. So it's amazing that you're not totally exhausted all the time. That's why you have all those high levels of testosterone to give you the energy to produce these sperm. You will produce testosterone beginning at puberty. It's responsible for all your male secondary sex characteristics, which are those characteristics that happen during puberty that make you more masculine. Your genitalia enlarges, you get body hair all over your body, your voice may become squeaky and then really low, and that change of voice, responsible for that is the testosterone. Your skin gets thicker, your muscles grow, your bones become stronger, and it also is what influences your male sex drive. You men produce about 6 milligrams of testosterone all the time. It is also what is responsible for that prenatal differentiation of the male sex organs that we learned about at the beginning of this chapter. You boys, young men, have testosterone levels that once you begin puberty are very high and even. You're really consistent. Us women are like waves with our menstrual cycle. We have ups and downs, but you men are very consistent until you get to be about age 40 or 50, and then your levels will begin to fall. When that happens, you'll have less muscle mass, less body strength, less energy, fertility. You won't be able to get an erection quite as easily. You'll need more manual physical stimulation as opposed to just watching that pretty girl walk by. And then also when you have less muscle mass, your body gets greater body fat. So when a man goes through this, we call it male midlife crisis. Basically, they don't feel as good about themselves as they used to when they were younger because their body is changing. And they may choose to make some choices that aren't so good for their families. I suppose buying that Harley or the red sports car is not a bad thing compared to many men will try to find love, affection in younger women so that they will feel better about themselves. So you need to be careful about the decisions that you make during this time in your life. And for us women, we need to know that it's a very real situation for the men in our lives and help them feel like the men we want them to feel like. This characteristic is known as andropause. You become anxious, may become depressed, insomnia, you can't sleep, you may become a hypochondriac because every little thing is a big thing. You may not have the appetite for food that you might have had, as well as the appetite for sex, because when you don't get an erection as easily, that may make you want to shy away from that. And you also may feel chronically fatigued. This slide goes along with testosterone. Kissing is a way for men to pass on that testosterone to their partners through the saliva. So kissing has a real purpose. So when we kiss, us women get some testosterone so that we too have higher sex drives like the men in our lives will have. When a man is going through that change in life, that too is called the male climacteric, with the levels of testosterone lowering. You can do a testosterone replacement, a topical cream or liquid that basically will help increase your sex drive, will keep those levels of testosterone higher. The problem with this, it can increase your risk of prostate difficulties and cardiovascular disease. So like the women's hormone replacement, you men can also have issues revolving around testosterone replacement therapy that aren't as positive as they could be. And we do need to work at surviving male midlife. Counseling may be necessary. And again, be cautious about making major life changes. These next slides are about male hormones. So this will be a good review from what we have already learned with the female. Your hypothalamus is the main control center that releases the gonadotropin-releasing hormone, which stimulates the pituitary, which is our master gland, and that's what is responsible for keeping those testosterone levels high and even. Your pituitary is going to secrete two gonadotropins, FSH and ICSH. The FSH, or follicle-stimulating hormone, is what stimulates your seminiferous tubules, or the Sertoli cells, to produce the sperm. They promote the sperm development and control the rate, how fast, that's 1,000 per second. The Sertoli cells also release the hormone inhibin, which means to inhibit, which reduces the follicle-stimulating hormone. The second gonadotropin is the interstitial cell-stimulating hormone, which is analogous to the luteinizing hormone in the woman. This controls your testosterone production, which keeps your levels even and high. Low levels of testosterone itself signal the hypothalamus to release the interstitial cell-stimulating hormone. So testosterone itself keeps those levels even. Here's the diagram that shows what we were just talking about, the gonadotropin-releasing hormone released from the hypothalamus. It will then stimulate the pituitary to make FSH and ICSH, which is what we prefer to call it in males. FSH is what's responsible for spermatogenesis. Inhibin is what tells the pituitary we have enough to slow down. When we need more, then FSH will be released. The LH, ICSH in males, is what's responsible for testosterone secretion, and it's testosterone itself that gives its own feedback. Now, I remember the difference between FSH and ICSH and what they produce. FSH produces sperm. FSH is a shorter acronym. ICSH produces testosterone, which is a longer word, a longer acronym to go with a longer word. Semen is the fluid that has the sperm in it, what you would know as the ejaculate. It's a milky, sticky substance that, again, is alkaline because of all the acid that would be in the urine, the urethra, the vagina. So it needs an alkaline to surround it to help support it. It's also what transports the sperm through the penis. In your ejaculate, about 1% of it is sperm. 1 to 3 teaspoons per ejaculate is how much liquid we would have. So just think about how microscopic those sperm are if they're only 1% of that 1 to 3 teaspoons. A male's going to have more teaspoons of ejaculate the younger and more healthy he is. When the sperm is released into the vagina, it's really thick. But then once it hits the vagina, it liquefies. And again, this is just the body's process to help those sperm get out and swim and try to reach the egg. You men will ejaculate per ejaculation 200 to 400 million sperm. Ejaculation happens in 2 stages. First is the emission, that's the nerve impulses, the inevitability that you're about to ejaculate, you're about to come. Then the expulsion is again more nerve impulses, the contraction that is actually going to expel the semen. And ejaculation can be delayed. It's a process you have to learn. You have to have the desire to want to wait to ejaculate and then to know how to control it. And we'll learn more about this in our last chapter on sexual dysfunction. Retrograde ejaculation, we think of retro, think of going back. It will back up into the bladder. This is called a dry orgasm, and it's a result of prostate surgery. If a man has had a prostatectomy, doesn't have the prostate, it's going to help push the ejaculate out the penis. So what happens is it backs up into the bladder. The biggest problem with this is it's going to cause the man to be infertile because when he ejaculates, he's not going to have the sperm in the seminal fluid to cause a pregnancy. Most men, that this would be a condition if they're going to be older, so probably they're not trying to cause a pregnancy anyway. It's just they will not have the ejaculation. This is called an ejaculation or a dry orgasm. He's going to have the sensation, he just won't have the fluid. This is just a picture of what I was just talking about. You can see this little sperm in the bladder, those little squiggly things, because the prostate, and it shows the prostate in this picture, but it would not be there because he's had a prostatectomy. They would have removed that. And to remove that, they go up through the penis, and then they slice through the urethra, and then they bring it out. It looks like little shrimp because it's acorn-shaped with a hole in the middle, so when they pull it out, it looks like little shrimp. And basically that prostate would not be there to push the fluid out, so it's just going to back up into the bladder. And then when he urinates, he'll urinate the sperm out, but they will be dead by then because the acid will have killed them. Another condition that men have is called the refractory period. And maybe it's not really a condition, but it's just time. They just think you've just had an erection, an ejaculation, and now you need to redo the process in order to have a second erection and more ejaculation. So your body just needs time for that to all happen. The blood flow is going to be reduced. Your penis is going to go to a flaccid state, and it's going to take about another 10 to 30 minutes to get another erection and another ejaculation. And when you ejaculate the second time in a short amount of time, it's not going to be as much. There's going to be less fluid. So instead of maybe 3 teaspoons, it'll be closer to the 1 teaspoon. Another condition that men have, like women, would be a UTI, urethritis, bladder and urethral inflammation. You'll feel like you have to go to the bathroom, but then when you go, it burns, so then you don't want to go. There may be a discharge. So know to report this to your doctor. Drink more water, drink cranberry juice, less caffeine and alcohol. And please know that even though this isn't a sexually transmitted disease, you can pass it on to your partner. So be sure, if you have sex during this time, to be sure to use a condom because you can pass it back and forth to one another, and then nobody gets cleared up. So make sure you get over it totally.